Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you so much for giving me your time. So we have done year 8s, and we've done year 10s. Now you're year 11, right? And this is one of my more favoured year groups to speak to because you're all that little bit older. So you are all 15 to 16 years old. Right, so you're that little bit older, you can understand a little bit more, and we can just go a bit deeper into the topic because we are talking about something that's pretty uncomfortable. You may know it because you may have been sent a paragraph from me, and a paragraph has been sent to your parents too, about what we're going to be talking about. And what we are going to be talking about is the crime of sexual abuse and sexual exploitation of young people. So people in your age group and people that are younger to you. That's mine, don't worry sir, that's mine. So, that is what we're doing today. It's a serious discussion. Give me a nod if you take the crime of sexual abuse seriously. Right, everybody in here. So we're all on the same page on that. Now, what are we going to do today? Let's start with me telling you what we're not going to do today. Right, what we're not going to do is repeat what you've already been taught year on year in your PSHE lesson. So give me a nod if you've been taught a million times about consent. Yes. Probably fed up with that conversation now. Give me a nod if you've been taught a million times about online safety. Yes, and it gets boring after a while. So we're not going to repeat any of that. But it's good that everybody's nodding in here because it means we've all got a basic knowledge. Right, what we're going to do is I'm going to be building on that conversation because what I want to bring to you today is some real life stories. I want to talk to you about what happened in my childhood, sexual abuse. And I want to talk to you about some other people's situations and an action plan that I can leave you all with to take forward with you in the rest of your life. Sound okay? Cool. Right. My story has some elements into it that you may be interested in. The first one is that I got arrested for knocking on the man's door that did this to me. The second one is that I ended up turning down an offer from Red Bull Formula 1 team to design their supercars. I'm going to explain more about that as well. And also, I've dedicated my life to spreading the word about this conversation, going into schools and speaking to age groups like yourself. And I've managed to get a 150,000 following online, which is growing every day. And that's everything we need to say enough is enough with this crime and the people that are doing it. Okay, so let's start with this quick exercise. So, please can everybody stand? Okay. So listen, everybody stands. I've got a question for you, right? And I want you to remain standing. Shh, everyone. I want you to remain standing if you would feel confident to answer this question in front of everyone. Remain standing if you would feel confident to answer this question in front of everyone. Oh, come on. No one? So what's the problem with answering this question then in front of everyone? Because I know everybody probably has an answer. Fearful you may get it wrong? Maybe you just don't want to speak in front of everyone. Granted. Who's got a bit of confidence in here? Who's going to nominate a mate that's got a bit of confidence in here? Okay, we've got a few people. What's your name, please, sir? Liam. Right, so Liam at the front. Shh, everyone, listen. Liam at the front is going to participate and do a favour to everyone that didn't stand up to answer this question. Liam, could you just give me a little bit about what this possibly could be?
Like touching someone inappropriately.
Boom. Fair play. Liam did it. Right, so thank you so much, Liam, for participating. We know that sexual abuse is when you control, manipulate, exploit someone physically. Inappropriate touch is something that you all know about. Body boundaries and them being violated is something that you all know about. So we kind of know about this conversation. But I want to talk to you about young 8-year-old Jeremy. This is a picture of me, obviously. I was young, energetic, confident. I just got to my new school, so I'm in year 4 at this point. My family had moved home, and things were going really well. I met this great set of mates on my first day at school in the playground. But at home, things weren't going so well. My parents had recently separated. Now, I know there's going to be loads of people in here with separated parents, so you understand the challenges that brings. One of those is you're now spending some time at your mum's house and some time at your dad's house. Now, when I was staying at my dad's house, my dad was helping out a friend from work with accommodation. This worked out perfectly because my dad was a doctor, meant that he needed to stay late after work sometimes, unexpectedly, or he'd need to be on call overnight unexpectedly. So with this man in the house, which was my dad's friend, he would help out with childcare. Now this man, my dad knew him through work. He was a nurse working in the local hospital. My dad was a doctor, as I mentioned, so they were colleagues. They were around the same age, from the same country, so they had a lot in common. And things were fine. Things were okay. But this man wasn't everything that he portrayed himself to be. Behind closed doors, this man had ill intent. And he started to groom 8-year-old Jeremy. Now we know what grooming means. We've been through that a million times. But Jeremy started to get manipulated and tricked into doing inappropriate things with this man. And it went further and further and further. But the crazy thing is, when I look at this picture of me, I'm like, but why didn't you say something to someone? Because young Jeremy didn't say anything. He kept his mouth shut. He knew it had to be kept a secret. He knew there'd be trouble if he said something. He knew his dad would be upset about it. He knew that this man would get in trouble then. All of this trickery that this man had kind of groomed me into thinking. So this abuse just went on year, and nobody had a clue about it. So what I decided to do was I dedicated my life to talking about this topic. I want to spread the word about this because no one's talking about it. Even when we talk about the sexual abuse of people your age, which is happening, nobody wants to talk about it. So I wanted to blow that away and shatter the silence. And I thought, what better way than to start making video about it? Let's upload these online and hopefully people will start watching. So I started making film. I teamed up with some film directors in London and we made this. And we're proud of this film because it's won awards in film festivals in London. We have Best Director, Best Short, Best Editor and Best Cast. That was difficult to achieve when you're up at film festivals against other genres like thriller, comedy, action. Who wants to watch something on this topic? But we wanted to communicate what the grooming process was like actually like visually and how that can occur. The film is 5 minutes long and I'm going to show you it today.
Right, crossbar challenge, are you ready?
Yeah, are you ready?
All right, 3 rounds, 10 shots. Whoever gets the most wins.
Hi. Sorry I'm late. It's all going this job crazy. Crazy. Never ends. Apologies again. Yeah. Right, where are we? So...
Oh, you're joking. Have you done that again?
It's...
Jeremy.
Jeremy, yes. Jeremy. G. Guita... How do you pronounce your surname?
Gunatilaka.
Gunatilaka. Jeremy Gunatilaka. Nick Johnson.
Here he is. So how's the dragon today then?
Dragon?
Yeah, Miss Schaefer.
You can't say that.
Right, let's go.
It's obviously an interesting case. It's difficult, to say the least.
I was told that you could help. I was told that you deal with this sort of thing.
Yes, but, well, not exactly. I mean, more sexual misconduct in the workplace, quid pro quo, abuse of power, that sort of thing.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So, when did this happen?
I thought you were aware of the situation.
Yeah, I am. My colleague filled me in, but it's important to hear from you.
Right, well,
Did they offer you any water?
no.
You can always have water. It says here he was your childminder.
Yes.
And you were how old?
8. I was 8.
8 years old. And where did it happen?
My home.
Right. Now, you see, look, I know I'm known for dealing with the tough cases, but this was over 20 years ago. Sorry.
You got it!
Yeah, of course. I said they would.
Is it on there?
Yeah, have a look. Yeah, come on. Let's go put it on, shall we?
Do you see what I'm trying to say here, Jeremy?
Well, I know it happened a long time
It's
ago.
a very long time ago.
Do you think I'm making this up? Like, I can tell you everything about this man. It's all there.
Is there anyone to corroborate your story? That's all it is right now. There's no case. It's your word against his. And it's never going to get that far. And what's this going to change? What's the end goal?
Oh, God! Get it!
I mean, come on. The guy's abusing you. And you don't say anything. Not a word. Not a word to anyone. No one ever says anything. Everyone waits until now. Why? Why? You had people around you. You had friends. I'm sure there was someone at school you could have spoken to. At least that would have given me something to work with. Why didn't you say anything, Jeremy?
So, I've watched that film 1,000 times. I mean, even just through the edit, and even now when I show it in schools I go to. It's so emotional and it's so powerful. I bet you've never actually seen visually how a child could get tricked into doing something. And there's so many different scenes that we could talk about in that film. We could spend a whole lesson doing that. But I've only got 50 minutes with you, so I need to move forward very quickly. Because if you think about these scenes, and you think about that young actor who was playing me as a child, how he was feeling in these scenes. Because he definitely wasn't scared. He definitely wasn't fearful. In fact, he was pretty comfortable. He thought this man was all right. And when I look back at my history, I think to myself about this man that was doing it to me, and I remember thinking that at times he was all right. But then, when we got to this scene, everything turned, didn't it? Like the emotions changed. And then I remember when things were making me feel uncomfortable. But why didn't I say anything in those moments? Why didn't I tell my parents? Why didn't I tell a teacher? Because I was sworn to secrecy. And then I never ended up telling anyone. And of course, we have the reaction from the solicitor, the reaction from the authorities. I know that many people will feel like if they came out and said something about something like this, that they wouldn't be believed, that they wouldn't be responded to, that they wouldn't be listened to, like what this man reacted to me in this film. We're going to talk a bit more about this as the talk goes on. But this is the big statistic that I want to talk about. This is the thing that we want to abolish. Why? Because carrying this around on your back for all of those years, trying to deal with such a horrific or traumatic experience on your own is risky. We need support as people, and that's why I'm here today to urge anyone that's ever been through something like this to come forward. And we know that this crime can happen literally in a million different ways. If it's in person, it can happen in a million different ways, a million different scenarios. And of course, you all know about the online space. We know about exploitation, sextortion, etc. So with that, I want to ask you a question, right? Because I wonder how much we know about the frequency that this is going on. So this statistic is from the government. And I want to talk about boys first. I want to ask you, how many boys out of 100 do you think would go through a sexual abuse situation before they leave school? So before they leave year 11. So essentially what I'm saying is, if you pick a group of year 11s, 100 of them, how many of them would have gone through some form of sexual abuse in person or online? And I'm going to give you an option. You've got 3 options. If you think it's 1 out of 100, you put your left hand up. If you think it's 2 out of 100, you put your right hand up. And if you think it is 5 out of 100, you put both hands up. After 3, I'd like you with confidence to raise your hands and put your vote in. 3, 2, 1, go. Be confident in your decision. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so the answer is 5. 5 out of every 100 boys, and that is why we should take this seriously. And we should take this seriously because it may not be you, but it may be one of your mates. And that's something to think about. So now, let's talk about the girls. Can you tell me whether it would be higher or lower than the boys? Let me know. Higher. Everyone knows that's higher. Everyone knows that being a girl in this world is completely different to being a boy in this respect. I'm pretty sure there's many girls sitting here that have received inappropriate DMs from people that they shouldn't have more than once, I'm going to say. So, let's go a little vote for this. You think it's 5, 10 or 15 out of 100? 3, 2, 1, vote. Okay, let's see the hands. Thank you so much, everyone. So yes, majority have got both hands up. And again, you are correct. 15 girls out of every 100 before they turn 16 will go through something. So we are talking about something that's very serious. And again, it may not be you, but it could be your mate. So there's 3 situations in every room. And those 3 situations are, it's either happened already to someone, it's happening right now to someone, or it will happen in the future. So we need an action plan. We need something that I can give you that you can go away with, some kind of tool that you can have for the rest of your lives and something that you'll never ever forget. And the first part of this action plan is just to tell someone. Because you don't want to be like me. You don't want to be somebody that carries this on their back for decades before actually saying something. Because as I mentioned, dealing with trauma on your own is risky. You have great people around you that will support you and will go through that. But why bother telling anybody? The risk of mental illness, higher rates of suicide, other functional problems are all related to this topic. And the earlier that we get support, the earlier we can understand a situation that's come to our lives and deal with it effectively. So let me tell you a little bit more about me. The abuse that I was going through finished when I was 10 years old. So it went on for 2 years without anybody knowing. My dad didn't know, my sister didn't know, me and this man kept it a secret. Here I am in year 7. The abuse wasn't going on anymore, but you can see, smiling, confident, captain of the rugby team, captain of the football team, Had this great set of mates. We were always messing about, doing well in class. Everything was going all right. Here's me in year 8, still absolutely silent. Here's me in year 11, still having a great time, not really thinking about the abuse. Like, I'd never really forgotten about it, but it's not something that was always on my mind. I feel like I'd buried it deep underground. Didn't really think about it anymore. But now and again there'd be a trigger. Something would come up on the news that would remind me of it. Someone would say something in conversation that would remind me of it. Send me off balance for a minute, but again, I was having a good time. Here's me and my mates. 19 here, 21 here, 23 here, 25 here. And by this point, 25, I'd known some of these lads for 15 years, and none of them knew. None of them recognised anything because I wasn't showing any signs. So I hadn't done that first part of the action plan to tell someone and get support. But is it that easy? You may be like, come on, all of that stuff was happening to you and you didn't tell anyone at the time or afterwards. Surely you would have just come forward with something. But I want us to understand how it's not that easy to actually say something. So again, I would like you all to stand up, please. Okay, so everybody here has got 10 seconds. Right, you've got 10 seconds to think of something that if your mates found out about, you'd be embarrassed about. So, maybe you've done something recently that if your mates found out about it, you'd feel a bit embarrassed about it. Or, I've got another option for you. Something that you've done recently that you got away with and nobody knows. So that could be in home, that could be at school. Something that you've done that you got away with at home or in school that nobody knows about. I would like you to be silent and just have a think about that, please. I want everybody to have something. Okay, sit down, please. Okay. So, everybody's got something. Now, what I'd like you to do, after the count of 3, is turn to the person next to you and tell them that thing. 3, 2, stop. Hang on. I don't actually want you to do that. But I want you to tell me, when I told you you were going to tell the person to the next of you that thing you were thinking, how did it make you feel? Can someone help me out here? Were you okay with that? Yeah. Who said yeah?
Why are you lying?
Did anybody feel a little bit anxious about that? Just give me a little nod. Yeah? Did anybody feel a bit fearful about that? Like, I don't want to do that. Right? I don't want to tell the person to the next to me that thing that I was thinking about. In fact, maybe you were even thinking, who is this man to tell me to do that? Maybe you've been angry at me. Maybe you're even scrambling around for something different to speak about. So if you just felt like that about something trivial, right? Something that you had done that nobody knows, something that you got away with, which is just minor, yeah? Something you're embarrassed about, it's minor. Imagine if it was something like sexual abuse in your life. Imagine how difficult it would be to come forward about something like that. And what's important about that is because it's not impossible that you may one day be somebody that one of your mates comes to and speaks to you about. And that's why this is very important, because you understanding this will help you understand that if you are ever someone that one of your mates comes to and speaks to about this, you'll know how much bravery and courage that took. Because I don't want this just to be about my story and a childhood story. I want to introduce you to Annie, who was 14 years old when something happened to her. Let's hear her story.
My name is Annie and I'm here today to talk about my story of abuse. When I was 14 years old, I was sexually exploited by a group of boys from the local area. It all began one night when I was out with a school friend and 2 of these boys. We were just driving around having a lot of laughs. I remember these boys were quite well known at the time, and with them being a bit older, I remember just feeling like cool and, you know, just having fun really. Time got on, it got quite late. I was meant to stay at my friend's house, but her plans changed. I remember like just feeling a bit like, what do I do? Should I go home? What do I say to my parents? It was around 1 a.m. They thought I was going to be staying elsewhere. So one of these boys suggested that I come back with him and that he would drop me home first in the morning, like first thing in the morning. So I remember at the time thinking, oh yes, that would be great. You know, I don't have to go back and face the music. So I went back with him. His friend also jumped in the car with us as well, but I remember I just assumed that he was going to drop him off on the way. But we didn't go back to his. We went to a friend's house. So there I was, alone, with 3 older guys. They were aged between 17 to 19 at the time. I remember feeling like this is a bit weird, but I wasn't initially made to feel uncomfortable. We just sort of sat and spoke for a bit, and then alcohol started getting poured, and I was given quite a lot to drink. I hadn't really drunk that much at that age, so it was all sort of a very new experience to me. And then things started to feel very uncomfortable.
Okay, so that's Annie's story, right? And she, as you heard, was out on a night out, away from her parents for the first time. Her mate goes home because she's ill, and she decides that she's going to stay out too. A normal decision. She don't want to go home. And she ends up getting herself in this situation with the older boys who start involving in alcohol, and they start taking advantage of her. They start manipulating her, and they start physically and sexually abusing her. Now, we just talked about speaking out, right, and telling someone about it. We would want Annie to go and tell someone about what happened straight away. But this is actually what happened.
My name is Annie, and I'm here. Afterwards, they said I have to go home. It was about 5 a.m. at this point. So one of them dropped me home. I remember not even really feeling that worried as I was initially going home, it being so late. I just was in complete shock. So I remember they dropped me off back to my parents. They had a caravan at the time and it was on lock. So what I did, I just went in, got into the top bunk, and I just laid there. I remember just staring at the ceiling, just really confused about what had just happened. Started to feel very guilty. I'm very ashamed. To be honest, I just felt like I just wanted to forget about it, just bury it, put it in a box and forget about it. So the next morning I went back into my parents' house and just acted like nothing had happened, acted like I stayed at my friends, and just wanted to get on with my life really and not think about that night ever again.
Okay, so Annie didn't go and speak to anyone. She just wanted to forget about what happened, push it to the side and continue her life. Something that she now speaks about, this is the platform that I created, this movement called Something to Say. Something that she has asked me, because I'm in contact with her, to urge young people to not make those decisions and not go down that same road. She wants me to tell you that she wished she had told her parents that morning that she got home after all of this. But when you think about 8-year-old Jeremy and you think about 14-year-old Annie, we want to just make sure that you know exactly who you can go to if you need to speak to anybody about anything that you're concerned with. There are 5 categories here, 5 big categories. And I know you already know this, so it's not going to be a hard question for you. But I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And after that 30 seconds, I'm actually going to pick people out of the audience to give me an answer. So it's not going to be a hands up situation. So you need to use this 30 seconds wisely. Talk to the person to the next to you. And make sure you all have one place that you know of where you can go if you want to speak to someone about a situation of sexual abuse that you've got going on. 30 seconds starts now. Everybody needs one. Everybody needs one. 10 seconds. Okay. Thank you very much. Year 11, thank you so much. Right, so what happened last week was, Year 11, thank you. What happened last week was I went to a grammar school, right? And they told me at the grammar school that it's policy there that teachers don't ask people to put their hands up and volunteer an answer. What they do is to keep everyone on their toes, they go around picking students out of the audience. And I thought that was a bit harsh, right? But that's the way that they do things. I said to you that I was going to do that here. The reason why I said that to you is because I wanted everybody to chat about the actual question. So I'm not actually going to pick people out of the audience. But like Liam helped us out earlier, I'm looking for someone else to help out and give me an answer. Now, we've got a group of lads here that have got a lot to say. So can one of you give me a hand? Yes, please. Teacher. Thank you very much. Parent, who said that? Good lad, thank you. What's your name? Ollie, thank you very much. We got teacher, we got parents. Anyone else? Who else would we go to? Yes, please. Friends, excellent. That's the third one. Who else could we go to? What's the number you can call? Police, thank you very much. Who said that? What's your name? Sophie, thank you. Right, we've got one more. We've got teachers, we've got parents, we've got the police, and we've got friends. We've had friends. Childline, so charities that are online. Let me just go through that again, because as we saw from the statistic, right, there will be people in this room that may need to reach out to someone. And those 5 groups are parents, teachers, police, online charities, and friends. Right, excellent. Because we know these 3 categories and we know this to be the case in every single room, and that's why we should take this very seriously. So the action plan is you tell someone as soon as you can and you reach out to one of those 5 groups. The next part is to not let it define you, to not let this bring you down, to not let this stop you from reaching your aims and visions and goals, whatever they be for you. Because when I got to 25 years old and I still hadn't said anything, it started pulling me down. I started having memories about what happened. And remember, I told you that it finished at 10 years old. I'm now 25 years old, 15 years. I'd never completely forgotten about it. It would come up now and again, but it wasn't like it was something that I was always thinking about. I'd just bury it for a few years, but then something would come up in the news that would remind me of it. But this was different. I started experiencing these low bouts of sadness, and I knew where they were from. They were from what happened when I was a child. I sat with them for a bit, and I thought to myself that I could just ignore them, because we'd been good up until this time. 25 years old, I had this incredible career engineering, working around the world. I was designing aircraft parts, systems and structures. I was working all around Europe, working in Dubai, running big projects, being paid well, great mates, having great time at the weekend. I didn't want this in my life. I was so angry that the memories were coming back. So I tried to push them away. I tried for 2 years. I weren't getting nowhere. They just got stronger and stronger and stronger. The memories turned to flashbacks, which turned to night terrors. This is what I was experiencing. A flashback is a real experience where you relive some aspects of a traumatic event. I feel like it's happening right now. In those night terrors, that's what was happening. What's crazy about these night terrors is that they were happening to me. My brain was telling me something. Because we don't make up our dreams, do we? If we could make up our dreams, we'd have a lot of fun flying around places, meeting different people, doing whatever we wanted. But we don't do that. Dreams and night terrors happen to you. And I was in a bad way. And as I mentioned, I got so angry about this. I wanted to express myself using those creative endeavours like the film. So I made this animation and I'm going to show you it, but you're really going to hear the anger in my voice and we're going to talk about it afterwards. I have a reoccurring night terror with you in it. It's the same dream every time. I'm lying in my bed and I can see you coming through my bedroom door. And I start to panic and I want to get away, but I can never seem to move myself. So I start shouting for help, but no words will come out. It's more like a sound. And as you get closer to my bed, I start shouting louder and louder until I finally wake myself up. And I'm shaking, but so relieved that it was only a dream. Look at what you've done. Look at the result of your actions. It's been 25 years, yet I still can't get you out of my head. How dare you do this? So now you can understand a little bit more about why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I won't stop. Okay, so you can hear, as I mentioned, the anger in my voice. I made this about 6 years ago. It's not like that anymore. The anger is stabilised. I'm going to talk to you a bit more about that. But for the first time, I'm kind of mentioning this man, right? I'm talking to this man in this animation. And I'm sure that you want to know a little bit about him and where he was from and what he was about. And I'm also going to explain that to you as we move forward. Things got hard for me and I wasn't sure where to go from there. But I came up with this idea and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to tell one of my mates about what happened. That would be a good idea. So again, we hit one of those 5 points. Now, I don't know where this idea came from. It wasn't like me and my mates talked about abuse in the pub. This just felt like a really strong idea. So I tried it. I'm sitting down having a beer with a mate and we're chatting, but in my mind I'm just thinking, just say it now. Just tell him the words. But I couldn't seem to get the words out. I try again and again and again. It was like I had this physical block over my mouth not letting me say it. And I think to myself why that was. And I think it's because I was a bit embarrassed about what happened. I was worried about what would happen when I told my best mate this. How would he react? How would our friendship change? What would change? What happens if I regret saying something and I want to go back? I can't do any of that. And I think that's what was stopping me from saying something. But eventually, I managed to do it. So it was to a friend called Luke. I'd known him all of this time, for 20 odd years by that point. And I sat him down and I said, mate, you are never going to believe what happened to me when I was younger. Now, he could have guessed 1,000 times. He would have never got anywhere near the answer. But he gave me the perfect response. And this is what's important for you, because as I mentioned, it's not impossible that you may be someone that one of your friends comes to and discloses to one day. He showed emotion. He was sad for me. He was angry at the man that did this. He was frustrated, asking himself why he'd never noticed, even though there was no signs. But he supported me through the discussion. He gave me my space to talk and he listened. The perfect response to my first disclosure. It made me feel stronger. It made me feel lighter. It actually took me by surprise because I didn't think that I'd feel like that. Feel so good after speaking about something. So I want to show you another person that has spoken out about sexual abuse in their childhood. I want to show you another person who has not let that sexual abuse define him. Any football fans in here, give me a nod. Yeah, football fans over this side? Yeah, there's a few here. I want you to tell me who it is that scores this goal. Okay, so tell me who it is. Dele Alli, right? Okay, so this gentleman has performed in front of tens of thousands of people, 50,000 stadiums packed. You would have thought that he would be of such confidence that talking about something in his childhood would just be easy. But watch this.
So, at 6, I was molested by my mum's friend who was at the house a lot. So my mum was an alcoholic. And then sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that happened at 6. And then I was sent to Africa to learn discipline.
Okay, so even though he is a professional footballer performing in front of, as I mentioned, 50,000 people at times, he still really struggled to say that. But he is a good example of something happening in his childhood, traumatic and horrific, not affecting him for his whole life. He still drove towards his visions, still drove towards his goals and his aims and achieved them. It's a great example for us. So don't let it define you either, but work hard through it. This isn't easy. So I had an idea. As I mentioned, I was an aircraft design engineer, and I had this idea of working for Formula One. Don't know if there's any Formula One fans here, because I wanted to design the cars that were on the racetrack. Now, if you're into engineering, you may know that aircraft are actually constructed very similar to race cars. So I thought I could achieve that. I started working late into every night, learning about Formula One and the industry. I ended up moving job, getting a job at Jaguar Land Rover in Coventry up north, and I was selected to design the new parts of the new Range Rover models. This was a good move, because I could learn about vehicles here. I only knew about aircraft. And this just felt like one step towards this dream of Formula One. I spent a year and a half there, learned everything that I could, and then I managed to get another job. I managed to get my next job at McLaren Supercars in Woking. I was selected to design one of the limited edition vehicles called Speedtail, which was sold for $2 million each, and there's only 107 in the world. Here's that car. I was selected to design the carbon fibre parts, systems and structure. Life was going really, really well. Then eventually, I get a phone call from Red Bull Racing. They wanted to pull me in for an interview to see whether I'd be selected for their design team. This was everything that I'd been working towards. But I ended up turning down the job. I was 35 years old by this point. I'd been speaking about my story for 5 years. And things started to change. After I told another person, and I grew in confidence in doing that and got stronger through telling my story, I started wondering what was going on out there. Who else had a story like this? So I started researching online, and I found chat rooms, TikTok accounts, Instagram accounts, thousands upon thousands of people with a story like mine. And I thought that I wanted to do something about it and make change. So we know this category in every year group there will be some people that fall into this. So we know about tell someone. We know about don't let it define you. And the third part is mostly for those that it may happen to in the future, it's red flags. Everybody understands what a red flag in here is, yeah? So, to understand when you get that uncomfortable feeling, when somebody gives you an uncomfortable feeling, when your gut is telling you that something isn't right, whether that be in person or online, that you have the confidence to speak up about it. Because that movement that I founded called Something to Say, which is a platform for others to share their story, there are now hundreds of stories on there. And all of these people are hoping that I tell you one thing, and that is that they never said anything, and they wish they did. That is the message from all of these people. So now we get on to this part. I'm going to talk to you about this part of the story. Now, there was some discussion on whether I should talk to you about this, whether I should talk in schools about this part. Because I am not, by any means, advocating for anyone to go around knocking on anybody's door for anything that they've got to address. But I put a poll out on my social media and asked whether we should or shouldn't talk about this part in schools. And 98% of people voted yes, because I need to be real with you. I need to tell you actually what happened, because this is a serious crime with serious effects and consequences. So I mentioned that I quit my engineering career designing supercars for McLaren. I ended up selling everything that I had, and I packed my bags and I put them into my car and I hit the road. I had an idea. I thought I'll take my story public. I take my story public on the open mic stages in London. I ended up speaking at over 60 events. Some went excellently. Some went terribly. I had people heckle me. I had people tell me to get off the stage because they didn't want to hear this topic. I had people shout at me because it made them feel uncomfortable. But I continued pushing forward because I knew with every performance I'd learn a little bit more and build some resilience to certain live audiences and get better at talking about this topic and communicating it. But there was a problem. Remember, I was 32 years old by this point. I'd been speaking to my mates about this story for around 5 years, just on and off. And there were always two questions that kept coming up. Question number one, where was the man that did this to me now? Question number two, was he still doing it to more children? These were two questions that I didn't like thinking about because I feel like I kind of knew what it meant. And that was I had a responsibility to try to find out. So I had his name. That's the information that I had. And I started searching for him online. One thing led to another, and I managed to find his Facebook profile. And there he was with his wife and his two daughters, smiling at Christmases and smiling on holidays. I felt so angry when I saw his face again. He hadn't changed one bit. Same eyes, same hair, and that same beard that I used to remember. So I decided to write him a message. I wrote him a message and said to him that I wanted to meet him to talk about what happened all those years ago. I don't care where we meet, it can be at any place of your choice, coffee shop, park, wherever you want, but you are to come and meet me because we need to talk about what happened all those years ago. I put at the end of my message that he's got 24 hours to get back to me, otherwise I've got no choice but to go to the police. I press send. I walk away from my computer. I come back 2 hours later and I saw that he'd blocked me. I literally couldn't believe it. I felt so angry at the situation. So I picked up the phone to the police and I reported the crime. The investigation started. Now, I know in the media, the police get a lot of flack, right? They're deemed as useless. But I just want to tell you something. We're hitting again another one of those 5 points that we talked about. The police were excellent. They couldn't support me enough. I gave my statement. It took 3 hours to get through. We went into some detail which I'd never been through before. But they were highly skilled. They supported me through the whole process. Now, as the investigation continued, they got back to me and they said, it's not looking good. We need more evidence. But what kind of things did they need to know? They needed to know things like, how often was he round? How did he used to get round? Now, these were all questions that I didn't know the answers to. The only person that knew the answers to those questions was my dad. Now, here's another one of those 5 points that you can go and speak to. But I never wanted my dad to ever find out what had happened. What good's going to come from that? He's only going to blame himself for not recognising what was happening to his son in his own house and trusting that man to come and look after me. But I knew I needed to pursue this prosecution. So I drove to my dad's house. My dad opens the door, smiling, excited to see me, because he used to love sitting at this kitchen table and talking about what each other have got going on. So we sat at the kitchen table and I went straight in. I said, Dad, I'm just about to tell you the most difficult thing you have ever heard. And I told him, now, I'm not going to lie to you and be like, it went really well. My dad took it really well. That was really easy. It was not. It hurt my dad. My dad felt tremendous pain through that, but he supported me. And he said to me that he was sorry that that happened and that whatever move I need to make from here, he will support me. And he got involved in the investigation. Is that a bell for us to finish? 1:30? So sorry. So, I'll just go 2 more minutes. So, I was so angry at this man for the investigation finishing that I decided to find out where he lived and knocked on his door. Now, I made a mistake here. I reacted on my anger. I shouldn't have done this. You should let your emotions settle before you act on them. And I went and knocked on his door to confront him. He answered. He couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. We had a confrontation which was verbal because he went to slam the door in my face and I managed to hold it open and I started telling him everything that I wanted to tell him. His wife called the police and they arrived and I was arrested and I was handcuffed and taken to the station. He ended up taking me to court for stalking and harassment and I was found guilty. I now have a criminal record. If I ever go back to engineering, I will have trouble. This is not something you should do ever. Never react on your emotions, especially anger. I made a mistake, but this tells you the seriousness of this topic. So now what am I doing? I've made social media platforms. I'm breaking the silence. I want to be in schools. I want us all to have the conversation. Go home and speak to your parents about what you heard today. Say that this guy called Jeremy came in and talked about his story. Ask them what they think about it. Because I'm going to tell you something. This is one of my big aims and missions. In 10 years' time, you're going to see films from myself and you're going to say, he came and spoke to my school and he really made it. You are the new generation. You are the generation that can make change. And I hope if you take anything away from today, it is these 3 points and you never forget them for the rest of your life. I want to say a big thank you to you for listening to me today. I appreciate it and I hope you found that valuable. Thank you.